So a few years ago, I did one of those DNA ancestry things for fun, thinking it would be super cool to see what my ethnic breakdown comprises of. I already had a pretty good idea of what kind of results I would get. Honestly, I was more interested in to see what kind of DNA matches would pop up, because I've been doing genealogical research for many years. And the results actually did verify my paternal grandfather's identity, which was pretty exciting for me. But before I even got that far into the report, the ethnic breakdown did end up raising half an eyebrow. Jews are a thing. Hi, I'm nobody, but you can call me Peach. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And if you have been awake at all for the past 2 months, the subject of Jews has been somewhat front and center, not just in the realm of American politics, but also American hip-hop train wrecks who have publicly and irreparably torpedoed his own career. And thank Christ, we never have to hear his awful excuse for music again. Because let's face it, in the 21st century, a media figure can never come back from going full Nazi, because no one outside of the testically challenged racist rags will ever again risk being connected to a powder keg like Kanye West. But I bring him up because he puked up this gem as his reason for not really being an anti-Semite. Because black people are actually Jew. Brilliant. And then there's the brand new congressman out of New York, who is currently going by the name of George Santos, who came out of nowhere to bamboozle his own party and constituents into legislative power, where he is strictly only representing himself because he absolutely refuses to resign, despite no one from his district, including the Nassau County GOP, wanting him to represent them. He's just like, yeah, f you guys, I'm in now, suck on it. At any rate, among the now countless number of lies and grifts that have since been exposed, one of the funniest and at the same time most insulting ones involve his claims of being Jewish. Specifically that his maternal grandparents were Jewish refugees who escaped Eastern Europe during the Holocaust, which is bullshit because his grandparents weren't even in Europe during the 30s and 40s. They were from Brazil. And when challenged, he actually had the balls to say, I never claimed to be Jewish. I am Catholic. Because I learned my maternal family had a Jewish background, I said I was Jew-ish. This guy. But as much as I've been yammering, this video is actually not about Adolf or the most trifling drag queen in history. It's about what it means to be a Jew, or Jew-ish. See, douchebag was implying that he is an ethnic Jew, not a practicing Jew. And if you didn't catch the distinction, well, that's not his fault. Regardless, it's been confirmed that he's not Jewish in any capacity. But going back to my DNA ancestry results, it did get me to thinking about past discussions about my own Jewish heritage. It gets confusing because some people don't realize that there is a difference between the religion and the ethnicity. And no, despite what Kanye and other brainiac celebrities claim, it doesn't automatically include black people. So, what is a Jew? Generally speaking, there are two main definitions. One, an adherent to the religion of Judaism. And if you don't know what that is, I'll link a video below that explains it pretty well. And two, a person who is descended from ancient Hebrew tribes that have continued practicing the religion for millennia. In many cases, both definitions will apply to the same person. However, for people like me, only one definition applies. So in a vain attempt to avoid confusion, from here on out, I will use the term Jewish when referring to definition 1 and the term Jew when referring to definition 2. So with that reference in mind, I can say that I'm a Jew, but not Jew-ish. Oh my God, that guy for putting that in my head. But how is it even possible to be a Jew in the first place? How can a religion become its own ethnic group, so much so that it's literally in our DNA? Because despite largely being a diaspora, historically, Jews have been relatively insular and don't typically intermarry. Until now anyway. And while I've always known that I'm half Jewish, I also have a little more than a rudimentary understanding of human population genetics throughout the 300,000 years that we've existed as a species, so I know that nobody is actually 100% anything, despite how limited these DNA tests are since they only go back a few hundred years. And yet, I still expected to see a percentage that would be somewhat less than literally being half Jew. So, going back to the grown-ass man who calls himself Yeezy, is it true that Black people are Jews? The short answer is not unless you're someone like me, having both recent African and Jewish ancestry. The long answer is a bit more complicated because it also requires a particular definition of what it means to be Black, and that can get a bit dicey depending on who you ask. So, right now, for this video only, I'm referencing an American Black man who descends from other American Black people who themselves descended from enslaved people who were forcibly shipped from West Africa to the Americas hundreds of years ago. In this context, that will be my frame of reference when defining what being Black means. Obviously, this is not the end-all be-all definition. It won't automatically apply to every single person on the planet who matches the physical characteristics of the typical American Black person, nor would it necessarily apply to brown-skinned people of African descent who don't descend from the victims of the transatlantic slave trade. I'm trying to make that as clear as humanly possible. What Dipshit was alluding to are the disparate groups that are collectively known as the Black Hebrew Israelites. Just to clarify, there's a huge difference between those groups and Black people who are just Jewish, as in converting to regular old Judaism, like Sammy Davis Jr. famously did. He didn't belong to a Black Hebrew Israelite group. There are several of them, each following their own unique fusion of Judaism and Christianity, but nearly all of them purport that American Black people are also descendants of ancient Israelites. And then there's the truly heinous ones like Yay, who believe that Black people are the only real descendants and that modern-day Jews are pretenders. Is any of that true? Of course not, but it's religion. What do you want, facts? Because the facts are that there are three main subgroups within the diaspora of ethnic Jews. The Ashkenazi, which is what I am, who primarily derive from Eastern and Western Europe, the Sephardi, who originate from the Iberian Peninsula, which encompasses southwestern Europe, and the Mizrahi, who include those who never left the Middle East, as well as North Africa. And if you're about to say, aha, Africa, see? No, I don't see, because North Africa is not West Africa, which is where our, meaning Black Americans, enslaved ancestors were ripped from. We know this because there's contemporary evidence documenting where enslaved people were taken. That, and again, it's literally in our DNA. West Africa includes the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, Benin and Togo, Senegal, Cameroon, Congo, basically this entire region along the coast. That's us, Black people. North Africa includes Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, pretty much everything up here. And we know that our ancestors weren't living in North Africa during the time when Jews were becoming a thing. North and West Africans were separated for a very long time until the advent of mass transportation, because there's this huge desert in between them. So no, there is no genetic or archaeological evidence to verify the idea that Black American people or West Africans in general are the descendants of the ancient Hebrew tribes. Newsflash, Kanye West is a Hitler-loving ignoramus who lost his shit when his ex started dating a Jew. But that's basically it. Fun fact, being a Jew or Jewish does not automatically imply loyalty or even concern for the country of Israel. The country's only 75 years old. Most of the world's Jews have probably never even stepped foot in Israel. And, of course, there are all sorts of different cultural factors that often, but not always, apply. In my family, for example, All of my maternal great-grandparents emigrated from Eastern Europe, speaking Yiddish, and mostly settled in the already established Jewish communities of New York City. They were pretty strict about keeping religious and cultural customs intact. But when you move to an ethnically diverse country like the US, especially during a time of mass immigration, you really can't get upset when your kids and grandkids become Americanized. My mother's generation was the first in our family's known history to break with tradition by marrying and breeding with Gentiles. Which is good, because at the very least, I would be super pissed off if I spent $80 on a DNA test only for it to come back as 100% the one thing I already knew that I was. But who cares what I think? I'm nobody. And while I do find the myriad of different ethnic groups worldwide to be a compelling subject for study, for the record, I don't give a rat's ass about being a Jew any more than I do about being black. The only relevance those things have on my life are the way people are treated by society at large by virtue of nothing more than perceived heritage. And as a member of two of the most persecuted ethnic groups in recent history, it's been a bit more than a little aggravating seeing and experiencing the bigotry and revolting ignorance on and offline. I welcome constructive discussions, even those that are based on flimsy foundations. But I will not tolerate any racist, hateful bullshit in my comment section. Maybe nobody, but I'm not an asshole. So be cordial to each other, you dicks. And I'll see you in the next one.